Are we okay?
Yes, yes, we are fine.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our session 4 strategic case study, having an overview. So, welcome everybody to our session 4 strategic case study. The usual thing we do most times, anytime we have a pre-scene information, is to have a live interaction with our students, an initial discussion of the case, uh, prior to the our usual intervention program. So that is what we seek to do in this session. Have an overview of this case prior to the session we will normally have. Is that okay? So we are going to start immediately. And the case has been given, as I earlier told our students when we ended our session. I encourage everybody to make sure that they read the case thoroughly, as is the case. Make sure you read the case thoroughly. Identify some of the key issues in the case. And then what you should do that is that beyond identifying the key issues, you should be able to see how those issues can be connected with relevant models within the strategic management syllabus. So you being able to read the case thoroughly, identify significant issues, and beyond that, you being able to connect those issues to the models for the strategic case study exam. And I'm sure you are doing that. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time, but I can assure you that if you do that often, you are able to remember most of the issues in the case. One of the things that help students to do well with case study is to be familiar with the case very often. Make sure you are very familiar with the case. Try as much as possible to be very, very familiar with the case. Is that clear? Do your most to make sure you are familiar with the case. The information is voluminous, but try and simplify it to the best of your ability so that it can be easy to remember and grasp the issues thereof. So this case is on the real estate industry, a very important industry in the scheme of affairs of Ghana. So the case began looking at giving you some industry background about the country Ghana, specifically the how over the years the industry has come to where it is now. So it says that houses primarily are built on land. Land for building houses for domestic use is generally in short supply because it has other use, namely for agriculture, for industrial production, shopping centers, airports, roads, and national parks. It is also the case that in many countries, the best lands have already been used to build existing towns and cities. One of the most crucial basic needs in every community is shelter. And that is the kind of case we are about to look over here. So the whole essence of the introductory remark is to position your mind to get to know what the whole essence of real estate is about. Exactly, giving you an idea of what real estate is about. It's about providing shelter, but doing it on a commercial basis and making profit out of it. Exactly. So a lot has been said regarding the real estate sector, but there are some I want to look at. It says in general, the construction of housing units is part or is a significant part of household wealth, particularly for low-income households. It is clear that the spike in demand for house ownership that most Ghanaians place an increasing value on home wealth. Home ownership is regarded as a long-term source of wealth and a protection against inflation. Many households regard this as the most significant form of investment. Investors switch from money markets to property market as a hedge for inflation in situations with relatively high inflation rates. like we have in Ghana. And homes can be used exactly as collateral for loans taken out by the homeowner, which can be used to finance other investment for wealth. Housing then functions as a cultivator and a protector of wealth. Exactly. So a lot has been said regarding how important real estate is all about. So we have been given information on the characteristics of building and the construction in Ghana. Exactly. The only thing I was surprised about was no information provided on the Ghana Real Estate Development Association, GREDA. I've not seen any information on that. Quite surprising when it comes to putting the information together. That would have been a significant information, but I've not seen a lot on that or nothing on that. As far as I'm concerned, it should have been a very major issue that could have been put in there to highlight the essence of that particular association. In most countries, the state, via the system of local government, control the use of land. And this means that household building, exactly, an individual have to seek planning permission to build a particular piece of land. And depending on the zoning regulation imposed by the state, may or may not be allowed to build. In Ghana, it's the same. It's a well-acknowledged fact that building and construction is very crucial to nation's social economic progress. That this includes the objectives of making accessible the required infrastructure, offering jobs and opportunity, as well as providing housing for people. Urban infrastructure, highways, hospitals, and whatever is clear. And we have been told clearly that the building and construction industry contribute 10% of GDP and employs about 10% of the working population. These are very good information that helps you to understand the depth of this industry and how it contributes to the development of the country. Exactly. A lot has been said. As I said, we could read it, we could read the information, but most of this information are basically to help you understand the nature of the industry that we are discussing here. And obviously, the nature of the industry is very important so that we can know what competitive forces will be at play. Anytime you are specifically going to look at the industry, you want to understand the competitive forces that will be at play when it comes to this industry. Exactly. Good. So they said that majority of the investment in the construction sector are made by government. Government also play a very major role when it comes to the real estate. Affordable housing. I didn't see that mentioned here. Government affordable housing project is part of it. It's like the government partnering with SNIT to also provide homes across the country has been a major investment, and those buildings are all over the country. SNIT, the number one pension provider, has partnered with government to provide a lot of housing, and government has been normally at the forefront when it comes to the issue of construction, real estate. Exactly. Right. So we can go on, and normally the construction industry is one of the fastest growing industry, exactly, in terms of sector, averaging between 7 to 8% annually, thanks to the enormous potential, exactly, to foster project export, expansion, and employment creation. So obviously, we are looking here at issues regarding the company's macro environment. Exactly. The company's industry, their environment, the macro environment. The micro is the industry, the macro is the world, is the general environment. And obviously, a lot of information has been provided here. A feature of the house or the house building is its variety, both in terms of the building materials and styles. And also one of the important social economic issues in Ghana, I think they spoke specifically about the deficit, which gives us a major opportunity because in Ghana, there is a very huge deficit in housing. And therefore, this has a major role to play when it comes to the issue of competition, obviously. It has a major role to play because with the level of housing deficit, it's a clear case that the bargaining power of customers in this industry is surely going to be weak because of the deficit. They have no choice and option. Is that okay? The deficits remain a major problem. Is that clear? So they said here that, okay, according to the current projection, nearly 1.2 million household units are required to close the deficit by the end of the decade. Some experts and the Ghana government own estimate has proposed that if this crisis is to be averted, exactly, we need to deliver at least 150,000 houses units exactly annually. Exactly. But what are we doing currently? We are doing only about 37,000, which seems incongruous to those in the industry. For instance, exactly just 5,000 exactly dwellings were stated in government of Ghana over the course of the past 6 years. Amazingly, gathering the process of resources for the dwelling unit took over 5 years. And finally, physical construction started in 2008. But sadly, no building has been occupied. Exactly. Therefore, it is possible that Ghana is not now producing 37,000 housing units. So even the expected projection clearly has a lot of subjects for review, because we have a lot of houses which have not been completed by government. Exactly. Indeed, forecast for self-built houses, which in reality takes several years to complete, exactly, occupied through the locked-up capital process, are included in the 37,000. In fact, over 90% of Ghana's housing stock has been realized through this approach, which can effectively, okay, compare to a gradual lock of housing capital over the course of 5 to 15 years in terms of delivery term. In Ghana, this is the culture of housing realization, because people take a lot of years to build their own houses, between 5 to 15 years to complete their houses. And according to the data that government is providing, these self-built houses are also forming part of the 37,000. And per what they are saying, government could only state that they could only do about 5,000 dwellings in their own report. So clearly, the gap still remains wide, and it creates an opportunity for us, those of us in the real estate sector. It creates a very huge opportunity for us to close the gap. Exactly. Government, okay, the government which owns most of the priciest homes, tertiary institutions, is the main consumer of the construction sector. The Ghana Ministry of Work and Housing oversees the sector. Is that okay? Although government is in charge of the building and the construction industry operation, the building industry's growth is driven by the private sector, which comprises members of the civil society, non-governmental organization, as well as residents, unregistered business owners, individual owners, and business groups. Is that clear? Users and consumers within the industry fall under this category. Exactly. And as I said, I have not seen the mention of GREDA, the Ghana Real Estate Development Association, which is a very essential part of this whole process. Is that clear? Now, for the Ghanaian construction industry, planning and building laws are modeled after the Western system, which has been devised, and the environmental laws were created by the Environmental Protection Agency, and the agency is in charge of implementing these rules in the building sector by establishing the rules for submission and approval of plans. Exactly. So definitely there's some form of regulation there. And this can fall under the legal factors. If assuming you are looking at pestle, this will fall under the legal factors. And I must say that this information clearly provided is so much enough to do a lot of work on at least all environmental models. Exactly. So the information provided in this place is so enough that no student has any excuse than to do analysis of all the environmental models in order to ascertain the opportunities and threats in the industry that the company operates in, or the environment that the company operates in. Is that clear? So a lot has been made, a lot of information has been given. So much has been put together. You must be able to actually identify all the factors relevant in analyzing the company's environment. Be it the pestle used for the macro analysis, be it the 5 forces used for the micro analysis, be it what do you call it? The potted diamond used for analyzing the comparative competitive advantage. Is that clear? And even product life cycle, all the models relevant for analyzing the environment of an entity. Is that clear? They are all useful in this regard. So much information has been provided. Your job is to sit down and reorganize it specifically in respect of all the environmental models. Is that clear? It's going to be useful. It's going to be useful for you to do that. Is that clear? It's really going to be useful to do the analysis of all the environmental models with regards to the information provided. Is that clear? So let's look at opportunities and initiatives of the industry to see whether we could get some more. Even the title of the paragraph should tell you that, you know what, you are going to get a lot of opportunities here. Exactly. So the opportunities clearly will form part of your SWOT if you are preparing a SWOT, which is the concluding part of your strategic position. You would need some more information from here. If you look at the next one, they call it challenges. So that could be the threats. Is that okay? Once we are looking at environmental information and you see the word challenges, that could be the threats. Exactly. They've also told you about financial constraint. That could also be a threat. Exactly. So every information here would be used to help prepare your final environmental analysis. Is that okay? Beef up your environmental analysis and be able to provide a very credible SWOT that will be needed for your analysis of the company's position. Now, the building sector is expanding with recent improvement in the industry operation. A variety of opportunities are arising from the initiatives being implemented in the sector, the impact of globalization, which will materialize through the creation of job possibilities with the entry of capital into Ghana. Is one of the opportunities in the Ghanaian building sector. Even though this will put the local consulting and the contracting firms in competition with the foreign rivals who may have more experience, it will also give people the chance to benefit from the expertise of the foreign expert and take advantage of the opportunities provided, exactly, by the groups like the Economic Community of West African States. PPP or partnership, private-public partnership, will become more crucial to the nation's infrastructure development. And this will present another chance for the sector to prosper. These corporations will also allow both parties to invest in and run and own their buildings, exactly, related infrastructure, which will have an impact on how the construction industry is managed, regulated, and developed. The professionals in the building and the building business must have the necessary ability to work, and that will strengthen the cooperation in order to do this. So much is given here in terms of opportunity. Globalization has impact on this whole business of real estate. Foreigners come into the country, so definitely it means that the barrier of entry is weak. If you are looking at 5 forces, that gives you some information on the barrier of entry. The barrier of entry is weak. Foreigners will come in there, but we also see an opportunity in there because the local firms will learn from the foreign firms. Exactly. So there will be some transfer of knowledge. Then we have also been told of some opportunities regarding public-private partnership. Exactly, because as it's been said, government is not doing so much in developing the sector. So there may be a need to involve the private sector to help engineer the growth. Is that clear? So these are the opportunities that the industry currently has. Now, the nature of these obstacles. So they give us some information on the obstacle, which is the land tenure. Ghana has a very, very serious problem when it comes to land issues. Exactly. Poor land tenures in terms of ownership, family ownership, chiefs and all of that, selling lands to people who are not owners, dual sale of land and all of that. And there's always a confusion of ownership. That clearly is a threat, or you can consider it to be a challenge. Exactly. Financial constraint. Exactly. It's very difficult to get financing from the banks when you are embarking on real estate in Ghana. Exactly. The industry's excessive reliance on government funding and financial institutions is inadequate. Lending facilities to the necessary participants have a negative impact on the industry's growth. The industry performance suffers from the lack of suitable funding for projects. This makes it difficult to mobilize, be it equipment, exactly, and the other issue with the Ghanaian sector that has been very much identified but not limited to is the insufficient engineering skills. So further build up to the threats, insufficient engineering skills, subpar workmanship, the Ghanaian artisans not really up to task, insufficient management skills, low productivity, insufficient operating cash flows, insufficient maintenance culture, insufficient revenue base for the funding of construction projects, ineffective reporting and information management system, low capacity of local contracting and consulting, and serious management gap, lack of training opportunities, long congestion period for loan, and low-scale professional or fees. I can tell you enough has been given to you regarding the threats. Exactly. A lot of information here clearly helps you to know the threats, exactly. So a lot has been given regarding the threats here. Exactly. Even though they spoke about the financial constraint, they ended up giving us more information regarding the construction sector, for which the real estate forms a major part of. Insufficient management skills is a threat, low productivity, insufficient operating cash flows, insufficient maintenance culture, insufficient revenue base for the funding of what? Of new projects. Is that clear? Ineffective reporting and management information system, low capacity of contractors or consultants, serious management gap, lack of training opportunities, and long congestion period for loans, and low scale of professionals' fees. Are we together? These are all problems associated with the industry. Clearly, they could be seen as a threat. Is that clear? In Ghana also, we have mortgage or build. So here, we are looking at two options. The option either to build or to have a mortgage. In some countries, houses are built primarily for rent by either private companies or private individuals, whilst others are built by private firms and sold at a profit. In some countries, these are a combination of the two systems. Exactly. Now, another feature of the housing building or its house building is that the house tends to be durable and can provide a home for different occupants over different years, over 100 years. A knock-off effect of this is that newly built houses have their market price determined to a considerable extent by the prevailing market price of the existing stock of houses. Now, three options are frequently presented to the ordinary Ghanaian household when choosing a place to live. So what are the three options? Either you mortgage, you rent, or you build a house. So these are the options available. And this will help us to understand the market that we are entering into. So I hope you are with me. The market clearly has three options here. Either people are mortgaging, people are renting, or they are building themselves. Exactly. So those who build for themselves, we have a little chance of doing it for them. But those who want to mortgage will buy houses. Those who want to rent may rent our properties. Is that clear? So in terms of the market, our focus should be on the mortgage and then those who want to rent. Is that clear? The mortgage sector has established itself as the most capable and superior financier of the populace housing demand in a highly industrialized nation. Ghana's housing sector is underdeveloped. Is that clear? As many households' main goal is to acquire a home. The path most people take is to what? Is to build their own houses, which has a life cycle hypothesis idea. Many households rent flat in the early years of their career, then they invest in the housing sector, exactly, and then obviously have their own houses, exactly. Investment opportunities in the housing sector become top priority for many households when their wages begin to rise above the threshold for basic consumption demand. Particularly, households may decide between building a home, and mortgaging one. However, these decisions are influenced by income levels, access to land, exactly. And in Ghana, a significant barrier, exactly, to owning a house is the absence of safe, open access to a land title, which is the same issue again about the land tenure. Exactly. So you can imagine that. You can imagine the challenges associated with obtaining a land. Exactly. Another characteristic is the exorbitant cost of houses. In many cases, families need to take out either a loan or mortgage to purchase their home and spend decades paying for it. The high cost of the house building to individual and society in general has made it forcibly clear in recent years by the global economic financial crisis, because in 2007, a significant number of home buyers who had borrowed in the years of high economic growth were unable to meet their mortgage payment. Exactly. So clearly, that is the challenge in this part of the world. So all this clearly helps you to build up your analysis of the environment that we are operating in, put up a very nice, what do you call it, summarized explanation of all the models that are particularly important for analyzing your macro, micro environment. Is that clear? You should be able to do that. Very important. Right. Local housing market. So information has been given to us about the market. At least before now, we can see how the market is grouped in. Exactly. Because the demand of house exists locally, it follows that the house builders seek to ensure that they are very well informed about what the local market demand. Most new houses are built without having a specific customer in mind, but building firms rely on their own general understanding of the local market. Because of their acquired local knowledge, building firms are able to assess accurately how to obtain the best value from the development of a particular site. This specialized local information gives existing companies a competitive edge over the less informed new entrant. Is that clear? So if you're not well informed in this industry, you are surely going to struggle, because you are not going to know what customers want. No, you have to make the most of the site on which you are locating your building in order to be able to get to sell them. Exactly. Because of the housing market influence, okay, on output swing and inflation, policymakers view the estate or real estate area as a very major, crucial strategically in policy making. The quantity and composition of household wealth, loan availability, labor productivity and employment, and other macroeconomic factors all are examples of how operations in the housing industry may impact a population's well-being. When home prices increase, the market develops the expectation that they will even rise further. And this expectation raises housing demand, which in turn increases the new building and aggregate demand. Additionally, a higher residential housing price has the tendency to increase the wealth of the household that operate this facility, thereby boosting consumer spending, a factor in aggregate demand. And as a result, housing prices affect the aggregate demand and resource use. Is that clear? So a lot has been given. I could read and read and read and read and read. Is that okay? But I don't want to bore you because so much information has been given. Exactly, even to the extent of looking at the regions, how we could expand. Exactly, they told you that a rapidly expanding middle class and high property costs and unimaginable urbanization, like in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, and Takrady, have made the industry one of the most pressing developmental concerns facing policymakers. The cost, exactly, and funding sources necessary to meet Ghana's enormous housing demand, which is estimated to be about 1.2 million over the next 10 years, are crucial for policy formulation. Exactly. So we're also giving information on other constraints in the industry. A further perceived constraint is the high and growing regulatory burden. This includes a range of issues from the planning requirement to building regulation, health and safety legislation, and now the sustainability policies are all part of it. The sustainability policies have been developed in response to the fear of exhaustion of natural resources, which is clearly an important issue now with the introduction of the IFRS for sustainability. Clearly, this has become a major issue, even for we accountants, to consider issues of what? Sustainability. And every business must now operate in a sustainable manner. And the real estate sector plays a major role in what? In taking away the natural resources, which cannot be easily replenished. Exactly. So that is it. So a lot has been stated here. You can read and read and read, as I said. But as you are reading, be thinking through how this information can connect with your knowledge when it comes to your environmental analysis, especially. Exactly. So household builders have improved efficiency. Exactly. So this is about the standardization of housing. I don't want to waste your time on that. It's also very important because it helps us to know how we are operating or how the kind of houses we are building. Because now we have what we call the modern methods of construction. The way we build houses in the past and no more the way houses have been built now. A lot has changed, and so much information has been given to you here regarding the standardization of houses, how their houses are now built, the modern methods of construction, which now use more cost-effective and energy-efficient or what do you call it, materials in construction of various properties. Exactly. In terms of business model, exactly, adopted by Ghanaians, is known as the current trader model. Exactly, which consists in essence of a cycle of three things. Number one is the land acquisition, the development, and outright sales. So this is the business model of most businesses in Ghana who are in the real estate. It follows a three process. You acquire the land, you develop it, and you sell it for outright. Profit margin between the sale and the acquisition and development. The developer retains no long-term interest in the property. Most of them sell it off without any long-term interest in the property. Exactly. Other models exist, such as the investor model, exactly, in which the builder retains long-term interest in the developed site, such as housing for rent, and then or the retained portion of share ownership in terms of sales, or self-build model, in which the individual owner contracts with others to do the building for him to their own specification. So these are the various types of business models that are in the market. And the question is, which option do we have when it comes to prestige designers? So now we are moving to the internal perspective. So a lot has been given on the external perspective. So if for nothing at all, there will definitely be an interactive or an interesting question from the environment. Definitely something should be coming from there because so much information has been provided with a need to do a careful analysis of this information to get your models well explained. If it's the pestle, how do you look at the issues in the case and arrange it in your pestle? If it's the 5 forces, what information is here relevant to prepare the 5 forces? If it's the Porter's diamond, there's some information there also that can help you to prepare the Porter's diamond. Exactly. Beyond that, you must be able to identify the opportunities and the threat. Because for every environmental analysis, you should have the opportunities and threat identified. Is that clear? So that is it. So we can now look at the entity, Prestige Designers Limited. And this, the history of the company has been given that the company came up owned by Henry, 1989. Is that not it? In January, the company completed the acquisition of 2 companies. Is that not it? The acquisition of Subprime. Is that not it? And the company also acquired a company called Etiquette and also a company called Vintage. So they were able to grow as a result of what? An acquisition strategy. Exactly. And the company now operates as a group of companies. Exactly. So one thing that is left to be known is to know the subsidiaries that has been acquired and what they are into specifically. Very important because they told us here that Prestige completed the acquisition of Subprime, another private building construction company. Previous major acquisition includes Etiquette Limited and Vintage Limited. So we want to know what Etiquette Limited does and what Vintage Limited also does. Is that clear? Prestige has steadily grown to become a nationwide house builder with operating businesses spread across the length and breadth of Ghana. Is that clear? But the company has challenges, and they are all imminent in the case. The Prestige housing operation is the core business of the group, and they build houses using what they call traditional designs comparable with its major competitors in almost all aspects of quality service. But what is the challenge? They lag behind in the use of the modern methods of construction. They are still using outdated methods. Are we together? The wide range of property types they have include 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, and 5-bedroom detached properties, 2- and 3-bedroom townhouses, semi-detached houses, bungalows, apartments for the domestic market. Is that clear? But the challenge here is that the company is using outdated methods of construction. Is that clear? Which clearly shows that they are lacking behind, and that is clearly a weakness of the company. In terms of the company's brand, the company business provides a range of premium homes in both the modern and traditional style. The company has a solid reputation for the design and construction of the homes it builds. The Etiquette business builds good quality, affordable houses for a wide range of world users, exactly, or customers. And the Vintage business focuses on what? On low-cost housings. And this part of the business aims to get young buyers onto the what? Onto the house property market. So if you look at it, they are actually in all the market segment. They have the premium homes, and they also have that is the subprime, which is giving us information on the various subsidiaries. So subprime produces the premium homes. Etiquette also build quality homes, but affordable for a wide range of customers. And then the Vintage focuses on producing low-cost housing. Exactly. So for all of these are the various products they offer, and each subsidiary helps to offer the product. So the company is doing 3 categories of product. Premium homes, if you have seen that, the premium, which is going to be for those falling in the area of high quality and high price. Is that clear? So the high in terms of price and high in terms of benefit. If you are using the Bowman to analyze their competitive advantage strategies that they may select to achieve competitive advantage, the Bowman strategy clearly can help you identify what they are doing here. So they have the premium homes, they have the affordable homes, because for affordable, most time if they say affordable home, it clearly, or something is affordable, it means that you are trying to have a hybrid here. You are giving the customer a high benefit, it's above average benefit, but below average price. So that clearly can be a hybrid. Is that clear? Then the Vintage one is going for the low price strategy. Is that clear? So even with this, you can use your Bowman clock to position their products and the strategies they are using. So I've given you one nice model. The Bowman clock will be used to do that analysis. Exactly. The premium homes will obviously be on the focus, or you can use the differentiation, obviously, either focus or differentiation. But the affordable homes could be hybrid, because you are looking at quality but affordable. Exactly. So above average benefit, but below average price. Then the Vintage one is low cost housing. That will definitely fall in the low price strategy. Strategy number 2 in the Bowman clock. So get that information. It can be useful if you are supposed to discuss the critical success factors in the Bowman clock. You can use this to discuss that and link it to the company's product. Is that clear? You have been given information on the board. The board is so important. Governance issues will come in here. But if you look at the composition of the board, there's a suitable balance there. If you can see that, the suitable balance between executive and non-executive, nice one. Is that okay? Suitable balance in terms of composition. Is that clear? There are 9 board members. Obviously, that is basic and that is fine. Is that clear? And this includes the chairman and the CEO, obviously, and then 3 executive directors and 4 non-executive directors. Exactly. The directors have extensive experience in the house building industry and provide a direct line of control for the company. So for governance, even with this information here, it doesn't really tell us any problem. That is one danger with this particular case. The governance issue doesn't tell you any problem with the company. They have non-executive directors. They have non-executive directors who are occupying the position of the board. So you see, when you have a case like this, it's left for you to now conjecture, looking at the possible issues on governance that could be tested. Exactly. And they've told you that the board routinely meets 7 times a year, and that is fair enough. Formal annual schedules of matters reserved for its consideration and decision. These agreed schedules include approval of the group strategy, major investment, annual and half-year results, interim management statement, trading update, review of performance, and then dividend policy, risk monitoring. So the board is doing everything that is expected of them. Exactly. So we may want to conjecture, look at some other issues that may not be there. We haven't been told about committees on audit committee that has never been tested before. You can look at so many issues in the governance materials that can be tested. So it gives us a lot of work to be done. Because once the information in the governance doesn't tell you a direct problem, it gives you an open ticket to now scavenge for as much information as possible. So I recommend that you do a thorough job on your governance issues, because nothing in this information suggests any problems with governance. Exactly. There's no information indicating any little challenge. Exactly. Board is well balanced, more executive, non-executive than executive. There's a chairman, there's a CEO. The board considers issues on regular basis like strategy, investment, everything that a board does clearly is there. Even risk monitoring. Exactly. Risk monitoring, very important. Exactly. Risk monitoring, very important. And maybe later when we meet, we'll discuss that. Exactly. So somebody said the case didn't mention independent or non-independent. Yes. I remember there was some time back, there was a question on the factors that makes the director to be independent. Yes. The code didn't state that, okay, there should be majority of independent non-executive directors. Exactly. The code emphasizes non-executive directors. Be they independent or not independent, just have your non-executive directors in place. Exactly. Very good. And here we have more of them than even the executive. So that is very laudable. Exactly. So as I said, it leaves so much room to conjecture, thinking of so many possibilities that could be tested. And it's really going to be a tough job when it comes to governance. To predict it's not going to be easy. You must think deep and see through the syllabus and see what can be tested. It's a lot of work, and that must be done. We have been given information on the company structure, which is very important because structure plays a major role in ensuring that strategy is well implemented. Exactly. So information has been given to us on the organizational structure of the company. They said it has evolved over the years as a result of series of mergers and acquisitions. So that is clear. The company started in Accra. They grew organically, and now they've expanded through a series of acquisition and mergers. So the company has moved beyond organic growth and now has pursued external growth by the series of acquisition and mergers that it has involved in. Is that clear? Now, when businesses were acquired in other parts of the country, they were allowed to operate with a degree of autonomy, and this was often a matter of convenience as senior management lacked the commitment to rationalize the different practices and systems of the newly acquired existing business. Exactly. So when 5 years ago, the present regional divisional structure of the Greater Accra, Ashanti, and Eastern was formalized, an attempt was made to ensure that there was a common system and way of working exactly were adopted across the 3 regions because of the pressure on the company at that time. And this was never carried out as intended. The outcome of this is that each regional division uses their own working practices systems inherited from the various companies they have acquired. So one of the most evident of this is the existence of different IT departments in all the 3 regions. This has limited impact within the regions themselves, but makes for some difficulties when coordinated action is required across the group. So what is happening is that this company clearly has a structure which they have inherited, or each subsidiary after the acquisition, they inherited structure from the old companies that were acquired, and nothing has been done to make a change to them. Another problem created by the semi-autonomous divisional structure arises when there's close cooperation is required on a joint project at the boundary of each division. The degree of autonomy allowed to the regional division managers often results in rivalry and conflict over how things should be managed between them. So there's clearly conflict between managers, all because the structure currently is ineffective. Exactly. So we need to read on that. Prestige operates the main board, exactly, responsible for the overall strategic and policy decision. This strategic policy and decisions are then enacted through regional structures, and it is in turn the responsibility of an appropriate company to market, build, and sell the individual properties. Now, the separate companies within the group are responsible for carrying out the activities via various departments and administrative systems. All three companies, exactly, within each region have their own marketing, sales, procurement, and whatever. Some rationalization and cost saving have recently been achieved, exactly, by SAPRAM in each region, also taking a responsibility for the finance, human resource, and information for all the companies within the region. So there's been some bit of work here where there has been some centralization of some of the various activities, exactly. So SAPRAM in each region also take responsibility for finance, human resource, information, and technology for all the companies within their region, exactly. So there will be a need to recommend some changes to the structure of the company. If you read further, you are told that the company wants to cut costs. Exactly. I think you've seen that. The group is ultimately governed by the board of directors. Each of the three regional divisions is controlled by the divisional board, headed by a general manager. And each division has three regional operating businesses, trading as the original three companies. That is Subprime, Etiquette, and Vintage. Now, these three companies are headed within the region by a managing director and a team with local knowledge and experience. The executive management teams have also a wide experience. So the kind of structure they have, it looks like we must be able to draw it. Exactly. We need to sit down, look through what they have, and find a way to draw the structure. Exactly. And see the picture of the structure. Exactly. The picture of the kind of structure they have, and see what we could recommend. Exactly. We need to draw the structure, see what clearly becomes the problem here, because they have a board of directors, then they have regional, what they call a divisional board, headed by a general manager. Each division has a regional operating business. Is that okay? Then the three companies are headed within each region by a managing director and a managing team with local knowledge. So we need to deduce this. We need to draw it and see how this works out. Is that clear? So I would encourage us, everyone, to try as much as possible, exactly, on how to work to put together a structure. Okay, so that is it. So we can look on and on. Corporate governance. Prestige Board acknowledges that by adopting the highest standard of corporate governance, this set of standards and values for the entire company. So the company seeks to comply with the best practices in all areas of corporate governance and continues to review the company's procedures to maintain proper controls and accountability. Exactly. So the company also have or seek the integration of sustainable policies. So a lot has been done here. Like most of the larger house builders, Prestige is developing digital policy to cover all contingencies. Exactly. So that is it. So we may want to look at it carefully. As I recommended, we must go over the issues carefully and connect it to the models. Exactly. Like I did with the company's brand, they have three of them. You look at it, connecting it to the Bowman Strategy Club. Why not? Exactly. So we have been given information on the process that this company uses in order to put their buildings together. The process of housing building adopted by Prestige conform to what is known in the industry as a classical house builders model. Firms using this model will acquire the land, seek planning permission, undertake all the development and building tasks, such as initial evaluation of the project, land preparation and construction, and then marketing, exactly, and the sales through to the final house purchase. So this clearly should tell you that the company has a process in place to put their house together, and I would want you to go over each of the processes. If there's any need to make recommendation, you have to do it. And obviously, once we are reading the processes, exactly, you can replace it with the value chain. Exactly. It's very important that as the company has various activities for which they put together a series of activities, each of which helps the company to offer value to their customers, it's very important that we are able to go through the value chain to see how each aspect of their activities are and whether those activities are helping to add value to the company. It's very important to do that. So I'll recommend that we look at it from that perspective, using the value chain to look at the various aspects of the company's activities, and where there is any challenge, we may want to make a recommendation that the company would likely outsource it. Exactly. So that brings about the issues of what? Outsourcing. Because for companies in the real estate, is one of their major strategies in order to be able to complete their projects. Outsourcing is very key. So you may want to read on outsourcing, exactly, which is very key information I'm giving you. Try and read around outsourcing, because in the real estate industry, you are likely to outsource. Exactly. So that brings about issues of external relationship management. How do we manage our relationship with all these people that we have outsourced some of our operations to? Because when you do the value chain, it will tell you specifically where we are ineffective and why we must outsource those activities. So I will recommend that we do that. Very important, okay, to analyze it using the value chain to see where there's a possible need to outsource or the company needs to improve their activities there. Exactly. They also give you some information on the company's performance, which is very key. And over there, I see a clear case of a dividend policy where the company does not want to use their retained earnings. So there's a likelihood that they have a dividend policy where they pay low dividend, and the likelihood is that they may want to finance growth using retained earnings. If you look at the information they told you here, Prestige, exactly, therefore increased its revenue, margin, and profit as compared with 2001. However, the company decided not to declare dividend, given the present economic situation. So even though the company was profitable, margins were good, they did not pay dividend. Therefore, their surpluses will increase, and definitely with time, they could use it to finance their capital. Is that clear? So they gave you some information. The thing I was telling you about their value chain, they told you about the operations and the constraints in their operations. So they've told you here that a very traditional company, Prestige, has stayed clear, exactly, of the use of the MMC, preferring instead to retain the tried and tested housing building models. That's the tested house building model. That said, that the current recession, together with government decision to promote sustainable housing practices, has encouraged some of the competitors to adopt the modern methods of construction. So even government is pushing for the use of what? The modern methods of construction. But this company has relented on doing that, and they suffered for it. Exactly. They suffered for it. The company has a good relationship with their banks, so take note of that. So in terms of obtaining financing, they may not really struggle because they have a very good relationship with their bank. Exactly. And you were told that Prestige has a threshold competence in most of its areas in the value chain. I told you have to do the value chain analysis. You have to analyze the value chain. So they told you that the company has some threshold competence, and you know that threshold competence alone is not enough, and enjoy distinctive core competence in its knowledge of the local market. So the only thing that gives it competitive advantage is the knowledge it has about the market. But beyond that, what activities are their competitors doing which may be better than what they are doing. There's, however, reasons for concerns that some of the activities will need to be reviewed if Prestige is to remain a major player in the real estate sector. So the value chain must be reanalyzed altogether per what is here for us to identify where the company is lacking for us to make recommendations. Either they should improve or outsource it. Is that clear? The company has a good relationship with their bankers. I think I spoke about that. In the boom years, the business performed well. As has been said, the existing board have been in place for many years, and the chairman and CEO have not seen any reason to change the way they are doing business. From the perspective of most of the members of the board, the current downturn is just another passing business cycle. And the strategy of the company is to continue with business as usual, which is not the best. There's one person who is speaking his voice out. Mr. Minta spoke extensively that, you know what, the way you guys are going, right, there's going to be a situation that will hit you very soon. He spoke expressly. That is very good. And what did he say? He says that he thinks that sticking to the existing way of doing things is a recipe for disaster. He urges that the recent performance of the real estate industry leader increased competition by new entrants. I hope you're getting the factors. So the recent performance of the real estate industry leader, and you'll be hearing about the leader very soon, increased competition by new entrants. That helps you alone to know that clearly there's rivalry in this industry. The government sustainability practice agenda, which is governmental action, helps you under Porter's diamond, governmental action. And the threat posed by the effect of climate change, that is chances, all require much more proactive response by Prestige. He also feels that in many ways, or in many areas, such as the application of IT, that brings into place your value chain, application of IT, adoption of modern methods of construction, that will come under operation in your value chain, the training of staff, the sourcing of your supplies, that will come under inbound logistics. So a lot has been said about the weaknesses in the company's value chain. I'm telling you, so much has been said here. Exactly. And he said that in brief, its operational methods needs urgent attention if the company is to emerge from recession to compete effectively. Given that the last review, which is very important, the last review of the company's strategic position was before the decline in the real estate sector, he feels that another review is to be done now. And what is the review of the strategic position? The review of the strategic position is the preparation of a SWOT. That is it. You've learned strategic position, is that not it? They are telling you that the last time they did an analysis of the company's strategic position was before the recession. There's a need to do one now. So you must prepare it now for the company. You must prepare it. Exactly. You must prepare a new strategic position analysis of the company. That means you must prepare a new SWOT. Analyze the external environment, get the opportunities and threats, analyze the internal environment. You can't do that without value chain. Is that not it? You need to do that. You analyze their resources, obviously. The resources will be done. You analyze the value chain. And when you are done, all these to put together to get you your SWOT so that we can know the company's position now. Exactly. We have been told of the decision of the company to go into some overseas investment, and they give you the fact that competitors who went there are even coming back because it's not easy out there. But despite that, there's an opportunity for us to also go there. And a lot of information has been given about the country, the West African country that we could potentially go into. A lot of information has been given about that. And then they also told you about the real estate industry in West Africa. That is very good enough information for you to be able to deduce the comparative competitive advantage. Exactly, to deduce what the comparative competitive advantage. A lot of information has been provided there for you to be able to use to do that analysis. Exactly. There's so much we've discussed. I don't want to waste too much time, but we are supposed to look at the company's, decision to go international, look at it in full perspective, analyze it. What are some of the strategies that they could consider as they are pursuing an international strategy? Very important. Is that clear? Then the present divisional structure. I remember I told you that there's a need to draw that structure. And they've told you clearly that they want to cut costs. And they give you the various costs of each of the various elements of the company's structure. So based on this, we may have to make a recommendation. And they said that if these cost-cutting measures are done, the company could be able to save about 75 million Ghana cedi. So there will be a need to do that. Then competition from sustainable homes. As we have been told, companies, one of our main competitor, who is now the leader, has taken over the industry. Why? Because they are building sustainable homes. And it's a governmental agenda. And they've received the award as the house builder of the year. And why? They are following sustainable homes. They are building sustainable homes. And the finance director estimates that the way they are going, we may suffer about 6% reduction in our sales exactly for 2024, and that may even be very serious going into the future. So we need investment. We need more investment. We also may want to consider investing in the sustainable homes. We need to do that so that we can compete favorably with this competitor. So we need to look at that. What can we do to also build sustainable homes as part of our product portfolio so that we can compete with this competitor? Then there's good news. We are moving to Dodowa, and we have some 1,500 plots of land that we may want to develop. So the company wants to go to Dodowa. But very important here is that the company is faced with ethical issues. So everything here requires your knowledge on ethics. This is where the ethical issues will come in, because the company wants to go and construct the housing, and they are facing challenges with some people who are action group within the community, clearly fighting the project. So we need to deal with that. We normally call it ethical issues. That is, issues that are non-financial whenever you want to consider a project. And one of them is ethics. So we need to get your knowledge on ethics. It's part of the knowledge, but by our syllabus. So everything regarding ethics, you have to read it, because this helps you to appreciate issues on ethics. I don't really want to talk about the type of ethics, because this will clearly be our business ethics, obviously. So everything you need to know about business ethics, how they should manage their relationship with various stakeholders, will need to be remembered here. Exactly. So that is it. And then you may also want to do some appraisal, which obviously, based on the information provided, the company wants to develop the 1,500 plots. They want to develop that. They give you enough information. They said the NPV is not really important. They rather want you to provide a residual income calculation, which is very important that we do that. So we are going to use this data to do that analysis, because whatever data is here is enough to do that analysis, because they give you various assumptions that you can use to do the forecast of the residual income of the company year to year if they embark on this particular project. So we want to do that analysis for the examiner, because the information here tells you that when it comes to financial strategy, at least he has given you some wind of information. There is no financial statement attached to the case. So if he gives you data, it's important for you to look at it. Is that clear? But sometimes the examiner is so interesting. He gives you data, you do all your analysis, and he decides not to even tackle the data at all. For example, last sitting, so much data was given to us. We did all the analysis, and then he decided to bring something from anywhere in the manual. And that is his prerogative. That is what he wants to do. So clearly, so we have been given information on the company decision to go into a foreign country and want to partner with a foreign company. And in partnering with that company, we have just been told that the company won some contract, and they won it through giving away secret payment. A series of secret payments were made, I hope you are with me, for them to win the contract. That also brings into bear issue of ethics. That also brings to bear issues of what? Ethics, and we need to look at that purposely. Another partner who we are considering, called Fit for Purpose Limited, they also have ethical issues. There's debt on their building site, and even issues of standards. Exactly, issues of standards. So we need to look at all these projects or this partnership that the company is going into. Above all, looking at the risk. the risk associated with what? Going into joint ventures, the risk associated with going into what? Joint ventures to the company. So we need to look at that extensively, because if the company wants to go into a joint venture, is that clear? It presents so many more risks. So we need to look at that. So above all, in terms of the work required, in terms of the work that is required, is that okay? You must do the needful in 3 areas. What is the areas that you are supposed to work in? So in my concluding statement, the work required in this case study has been clearly given. No financial information. So let me put some few things on the board. So the work required is very clear. They've already told you the need. Looking at it, the company needs a new analysis of their strategic or position. Okay? The company needs an analysis of their strategic position. So that is your job. You must do that. You analyze the company's environment using all the models relevant to be able to identify the what? The opportunity and what? And threats. You analyze the company's strategic what? Capability, so as to identify what? The strengths and weaknesses. Okay. Then you can prepare a SWOT for the company. And then when you are done, you must make recommendations. Are we together? So this is the job, at least if for nothing at all, this one there, everybody should be able to do it. It's a tough job, but you can do it. Run your environmental analysis. And that is one of the aspects that students fail a lot. Anytime there's a case study and there's a need to analyze the environment, students fail a lot because they answer the question using theory instead of picking the issues from the case. When they say analyze 5 forces based on this question, it's no joke. You don't go discussing that barrier of entry. No, you must pick what is the barrier from the case. If the barrier is what is weak, tell us why it is weak by evidence from the case. If there's threat of substitute, it's not just mention of that. Look inside the case and give me why you think there's a threat of substitute. And that is why students fail whenever the case has environmental analysis, because most people lack the capacity to do that analysis. You must pick the issue from the case. It's not theory work. If it's theory, anybody who reads can do this. Anybody who chew the manual can do this. It's not theory. You must pick up the issue from the case. Are we together? If it's pestle, what are the ecological issues in the case? Based on from the case, you can see the issue of sustainability. That alone should tell you the ecological issue. I hope I'm making sense. So you must deal with each model by looking for issues in the case. Are we together? If it's value chain, you can look at all the activities of the company and try and see where each of them will fall under the value chain, and look at whether for each of those activities, whether they are performing it well to create value for their customers. Is that clear? So there's a lot of work needed here in terms of that. So once you do all that analysis, you must get us a new SWOT and make some recommendations. If you can do it, that would be brilliant. Then you can go to look at the choices, the strategic choices that are needed to be embarked on by the company. Run your head around it. Look at the company. What choices do you think the company may have to make? Should they make decisions on they being able to achieve competitive? Because as we speak now, we are facing challenges when it comes to their competitive advantage. The competitor is clearly taking over. So there's a need to develop strategies that can help us achieve competitive advantage. How do we intend to grow? We need to do that. Should we look at corporate parenting? What parenting decisions are we supposed to make? All that must be looked at from the choices. And you need to evaluate the choice using your what? Your SAF model. Very important. Are we together? Evaluate all the choices, the potential choices, using the SAF model. Not forgetting that in this case, we have a proposal to invest in the Dodowa development project. So the residual income computation could form part of the acceptability criteria in the SAF model. Because when it comes to acceptability, okay, we look at the risk and the returns. Exactly. How stakeholders react to the risk and returns. Are we together? So we may want to do an analysis. So SAF, very important, connected to the decisions that the company will make. Obviously, you need to look at that. Then strategy in action. You have already been told that there's a problem with structure. Beyond that, so much must be done. And eventually, you must prepare a business plan. Exactly. You must be able to prepare a business plan. So much should be looked at from the perspective of the actions, and you have to link it to the case. So if you take each issue, look at from the case what you can look at and deduce over there. Exactly. So that is very important. So once you are done with your choices, you must have the SAF. Once you are done with your strategy in action, you must have your business plan prepared for the company to pursue their new strategies. Is that clear? So when you are done, you can now look at governance. Okay, you can now look at governance. And I told you in governance, it's going to be a tall order. There's so much we need to read and read and read, whilst trying to see if we can strategize to see what will be simplified. For example, issues that clearly have not been examined could be looked at to see what we could deduce for this particular case. For risk, this one you can do without it. This is a construction company. You can do without risk. So risk, very important. All aspects of risk management, you need to look at it. Then ethics. For ethics, it's all over the case. You can see ethics all over the case. The challenges with their people with whom they have joint ventures, then also the development at, what's the name, at Dodowa has brought about ethical issues. So these issues, ethics, governance, and what, risk, you will not get anything less than 30 marks here in terms of questions. Are we together? And you should always expect that it could be anything, not necessarily even part of the case. You may have to speculate it to see that, no, looking at this case, this, and that could be tested and maximize your effort there. For financial strategy, as I said, once we don't have a financial statement, we have been given information in the case on some proposal analysis. We could analyze it. Beyond that, the company needs financing to embark on their project. How do they get financing? We need to look at that. The company is operating overseas. What risk do they face over there with investments across various foreign borders? Exactly. So a lot should be done regarding financial strategy also. Exactly. So for financial strategy, that should be a 20-mark area, and we hope to see what comes out of it. Exactly. So my job is done. A lot has been said within the time we had to do all this. Is that okay? I'm excited that we have another precinct. I'm excited that we are going to work hard to do this together. For those who are interested in joining us for our intensive revision, it's a Power Pack program starting this Saturday to Sunday, and then we are going to continue from Monday to Tuesday. So you may make your choice as to which of the options you may want to attend. If it is the weekend, the program is there. If it's the weekday, the program is there. But expect a Power Pack discussion, exactly, so that we can make the most of the issues in the case. The good thing is that we have read this case together. So when we meet, there's no child's play anymore. We go to the real business, is that clear? Every I've taken my time to read the case with you. Most of the issues I've been able to explain them. So it's now time to go into business. Exactly. Discuss the issues very technically and walk through the entire syllabus with the perfect approach to ensure that nothing is left untouched. Exactly. So that is it. So on that note, I wish you all the best. See you in our intervention program. And I'm sure you are happy this discussion came off. Is that clear? I usually do not like to take questions because I hope nobody is coming to ask me whether this is coming, whether this one is in the case. I don't think that it's time to do that kind of conversation because we are not here to speculate. Is that clear? Case study is a serious business and it is a technical exercise. Is that okay? So we need to sit down, do our technical work. If there's nothing like child's play here. We need to do a tough job to give us the best outcomes. Is that clear? Last sitting, a lot of people did well, and it's all because of the effort that collectively we've been able to put together to ensure that colleagues have the best of outcomes. Is that clear? So if it's a question connected to what is coming, why is this not here, what is there, I'm not here to comment on that. At least I've spoken enough on the case, and I'm sure most of us have picked some ideas out of this. Is that clear? So I wish you all the best. And if there's any challenge you have regarding our registration process, how to join the intervention and all of that, you can obviously reach our team to get the needed support. Is that clear? So on that note, thank you all for the opportunity and have a blessed evening. Bye.